إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير. قال الله تعالى في الكتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. وقال يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وهدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أما بعد. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most frequent du'as that we make to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a communal gathering or when we're praying individually is that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. Many times when we're praying Taraweeh and we're praying Qiyam, you'll hear the Imam say, after he sends salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt. He asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance for the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran states that those who seek to be guided, those who seek huda, will receive huda, they will receive guidance. And when you reflect upon guidance and what the contemporaries and what the scholars have said, is that when we look at the creation of animals, and we look at the creation of the insan, one of the main distinguishing characteristics that separates us from animals is the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is qalam Allah. Right? Because if you remove the guidance of Allah from our lives, the similitude between us and the beast is quite striking. Right? Animals eat, animals procreate, animals defecate, and then animals die. That's their sole purpose of creation. That's what animals do. If you have a cat, if you have a pet at home, that's their life. But mankind has huda, mankind has guidance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that He taught us when we knew not. Right? And hence the creation of the pen. And from the pen came intellect. And from intellect, we were inspired with thoughts. And that thought led to a way of life and a way of creation and civilization. And if you remove that huda, if you remove that guidance, and if you remove what Allah has given you, you really return back to those carnal desires that we all have. It's the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, that allows us to exercise a form of restraint within our lives. Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he says, إِذَا الْمَرْءُ كَانَتْ لَهُ فِكْرًا فَفِي كُلِّ شَيْءٍ لَهُ إِبْرَةٌ. He says when a person is deeply involved in some thought, when something is really heavy on his heart, then everything around him will be guided towards that thing. And the purpose of this khutbah today is a new year approaches, right, in the Gregorian calendar. For us, the new year has already started, right? As Muslims, we believe Muharram is the new year. But a new year approaches, so for the sake of cultural relevance, the conversations that many people are having in our social circles is, it's a new year. And something that we hear is, new year, new me. Right? It's a new year, so people will ask you, what are your resolutions? What do you wish to change about yourself in the new year? And they'll say to each other, may the new year bring you prosperity and happiness and guidance. You know, all of this is very convenient. And it's very feel-good talk and verbiage. But there is no prosperity, and there is no happiness, and there is no guidance unless there's actual action that's taken to bring those things into your life. That's why Islam is not a religion of passiveness. When you're a Muslim, you are commanded to act. In order to grow closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to physically act with our limbs. We have to actually internalize the belief of La ilaha illallah. Or you can't just say, I'm Muslim and that's it. Right? So Imam al-Ghazali says that if you really want to change, if there's really something on your mind, so if we are one of those individuals that's saying, you know what, today's the last day of this particular year, and tomorrow I want to start fresh, it's Saturday, right? For us, today is a day of holiday. Not because it's New Year's Eve, because it's Yom al-Jumu'ah, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us this is the day of celebration for the believers. So on that note, it's a new week for us. So if we really want to change, if we want to be better than we were yesterday, not just this year, because each day is a blessing from Allah, what can we do? Right, so in this khutbah, we'll discuss just several points that we can take as to how we can implement steps towards change in our life. But the first and foremost thing is that if we really want to change, we have to make an intentional decision that I am no longer happy, I am no longer content with status quo. And that status quo can be in any aspect of your life. It just doesn't have to be in the spiritual sense. Are you stagnant in your personal relationships? Right? Is your spouse unhappy with you? Are your children unhappy with you? Are your parents unhappy with you? Do you seek the displeasure of the company in which you occupy? No longer should you be content with that. So change can be amplified in every aspect of our life. If we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we really truly claim to love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then everything around us will have meaning. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that people of reflection, people that do tadabbur, and they see everything that Allah has created as a sign of Allah. Right, in the rising of the sun, in the setting of the sun, in the rising of the moon, right, in the day and the night, when they lay and when they sit, when they sleep, when they awake, they remember Allah. Because their heart is inclined towards Allah. So the first is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that for every problem that has been created, there's a solution. And when we ask Allah for guidance, Allah will guide us to it. So the first thing is, as we begin to reflect upon how we can change in our life, the first thing is we have to eliminate the poisons from our life that are not allowing us to change. And that's a very heavy statement, because when we say poison, naturally the conversation in our culture now is that you must be talking about toxic people, right? Poisonous people, toxic people, they hold us down? Certainly. But that's not exclusive to just people. Toxicity can be within yourself, and it can also reflect upon your behavior and your actions. It can also mean the places and things which ruminate your mind and where your body takes space. So ask yourself, are you frequenting certain places that are bringing a form of toxicity and creating a barrier between you and Allah? Where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your free time? What do you do? You know, I was listening to a speaker, he's a motivational speaker, and he brought up an interesting point. He goes, I believe in the concept of OQP. OQP, it means only quality people. If you want to grow, and he's speaking from a business aspect, and he says if you really want to grow your business, and if you really want to grow in aspects of your life, you need to surround yourself with only quality people. People that will elevate you. We take that and we extract it for our sake, for the sake of spirituality. If you want to grow religiously, right, you're not going to go to a club or a bar to find spirituality. You go and you sit in circles of Allah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being reflected upon. Right? Where there's a circle where your iman is being lifted. You come to the masjid, you open up the Quran, you listen to a lecture. So what are you doing with your, not just your time, but with your mind and with your body? Remove those toxic environments and people that may be taking you away from where you hope and you wish to be. The Prophet ﷺ taught us about the qalb. Right? He says, qalbun salim, on the day of judgment, when we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the only thing that will matter is a sound heart. And Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says the heart is a vessel. So whatever we fill within that vessel is what will take space. And if we fill our heart with things that are other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then naturally, there's no space for Allah in that heart. Because it has already been preoccupied by everything else that distracts us from Allah. And that takes us to the point, well, my connection with Allah isn't strong. I pray, but I don't feel spiritual. I make dua, but my dua isn't accepted. I prayed qiyam, but nothing happened. My dear brothers and sisters, it's not the dua that's ineffective. It's not the salah that is ineffective. Right? It's what are the actions that we are doing before we're making dua? What are the actions that are occupying our heart and our mind before we go and we stand before Allah? Many times we're unable to have khushu' in our salah is because our heart and our body is preoccupied with the thing it was doing prior and that which is planning to do after. And so again, the issue is not the dua that we're making. The issue is what separates and creates that barrier between the 2 rak'ahs of qiyam that you prayed last night. You ever get into an argument with your parents or your spouse, or you just got done getting yelled at by your boss, and then you go and pray, and then you reflect and you say, man, that prayer had no meaning. I didn't feel anything. I just did it just to do it. Because that heart was preoccupied with something other than Allah. So reflect upon what is happening between your prayers, between your dua, between your Quran, between your qiyam. And that will help us eliminate that which separates us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, we've all heard this statement being reflected and recited. They say an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. If you look in the world that we live in right now, if you live in America, it's quite the opposite. We are a civilization that is rooted in the belief that if I have a problem, there's a medicine for it. I'm Pakistani. My genetic makeup predisposes me to certain diseases. Right? If you look around just the Muslim community, we have hypertension, we have diabetes, we have high cholesterol, we have sleep apnea, we have liver issues, we have kidney issues. Yes, there's genetic factors, but many of them are because we chose the ounce of, the pound of cure is better than an ounce of prevention. Because I can take medication upon medication upon medication, or I can just get a surgery and I'll be fixed and it's fine. So long as I don't have to change my life, that's okay. Because, I am compliant with my medications. Why am I speaking about this? Because if you go to the hospitals, you'll see that we're actually not able to serve patients the way that they should be served because we don't have the equipment. We have to get specialized equipment in the hospitals to care for bariatric and morbidly obese patients. Again, what's the point? Because when it comes to our health, we say, I can just go on and on and on and on and on and live a certain way, but then there's a fix for it, so I'll be okay. But my dear brothers and sisters, when we have heart attacks and we drop dead, there's no time. There's no time to turn back. Because when that chest pain starts, you will die. What's the relationship here? We do the same thing when it comes to our religion and our change with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We live our life in a way of sin, and we continuously and perpetually continue upon a sin, be it a small sin or a big sin. And we say to ourselves, we lie to ourselves and we say, I'll become religious when I'm older. I'll change when I have kids because I have to be a role model. I'll change when I get married because, I'm the head of the household now, so I'm going to guide my wife too. I'll change when I move out of my parents' house. I'll change in Ramadan. I'll change when I go to Hajj. Inshallah, I'll make tawbah on Laylatul Qadr. It's the same exact thing until death, the literal and the spiritual death, knocks on our door, right? And the angel of death is there. And now we're going to wish that we had taken that, ounce of prevention. I wish I had made tawbah when I had life. I wish I had prayed salah when I had the physical capacity to do so before my body gave out. I wish I had given when I had the means, but I chose to withhold. I wish. And then in hindsight, when life has passed us by, it's too late for change. Another thing that we're taught in this society is don't ask for permission, just ask for forgiveness. Like, go and do the thing, it's okay. People will forgive you. Right? That is literally just playing Russian roulette with your life. It's playing Russian roulette with your spirituality. It's taking advantage of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafur Rahim. When you know right from wrong, but you say, I'll just ask for forgiveness. That's not tawbah. That's not tawbah. That's taking advantage of something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is merciful, who is Ghafur Rahim, has made accessible to those who truly repent and are remorseful for their actions. So we need to remove that concept when we have the time, when we have the opportunity, when we have life, that an ounce of prevention truly is better than a pound of cure. And that's what Shaitan does. He digs us in a hole and he lets you sink deeper and deeper and deeper, because you can always make tawbah until death comes us by and we realize that moment has passed. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله ثم أما بعد. For those joining, we're discussing ways in which we can be a new us, because the contemporary belief is that it's a new year, but for us it's Yawm al-Jum'ah. It's a day of blessing and a day of a fresh start. We may not be where we hoped to be last Friday, but Allah has given us life. He has given us blessings to come together as a community and reflect upon our state so we can be better tomorrow. And so, as we're talking about falling into this cascade of sinning, Imam al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he comments and he says that when we're about to commit sins, when we're about to go down that slippery road, we go through several stages. It doesn't just happen. You don't just have a heart attack, right? Some things need to happen. Your arteries need to get clogged at 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then things happen. Sin works the same exact way. And he comments and he says, as I state these stages, we can reflect upon them, because each of us goes through this. He says the first stage of when we're about to begin a sin is called fatra. It's a passing thought. We see something perhaps that excites us, that catches our attention, and we look at it. And a thought is elicited in our mind. And then it becomes a fikr. It's a settled thought. Hey, what about that thing? What about that person? What about that business venture that will allow me to grow? Might not be the most halal, but you think about it, it ruminates, it takes space in your mind. And it tells you, you weigh out the things, the pleasure versus the haram, but the pleasure is really exciting. So now it's a fikr, right? You begin to think about it more. And then it becomes a niyyah. Now you've compromised with yourself, you've had that transaction, and now you've made the intention to commit that sin. Nothing is going to stop me. I understand that this is really good. I'm going to do it. And then it becomes an azima, a determination to commit that sin. No matter what happens, I need this in my life. I need this act, I need this business, I need this person, I need this man, I need this woman. I need to have this. I have a determination that it must be. And then it becomes amal, action. There's nothing to stop you, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given everyone free will, so we commit the act. And then it becomes an ada. It becomes the actual bad habit. And slowly, we have a systemized sin in our life, and that will kill our spirituality and our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more than anything else. Because it's literally that hole in the boat that you don't see. But the water continues to come in and come in and come in. And the next thing we know, our spiritual heart has completely submerged and drowned. And so we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify us from the sins that cause our du'as to be cut off, and that which causes the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to descend upon us. And we'll conclude shortly. Number 3 is to remain upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We've heard this time and time again. But it's truly something that is going to liberate us. Find something small and stick to it, because it may become the very reason for us to enter Jannah. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala narrates that the most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are Adwan al-Muhabba. Right? Actions that are consistent, even if they're small. Right? So long as you have that consistency in your life. So as you leave here today, reflect upon a will that you can do, a daily act of spirituality that you can do. Be it some reflection. The Prophet ﷺ used to make istighfar 70 times a day. The Prophet of God used to make tawbah 70 times a day. I know I am more in need of forgiveness from Allah than the Prophet ﷺ was. Perhaps I should say astaghfirullah 70 times. And that takes me a few seconds. Right? Whatever the wird may be. We said, the Prophet ﷺ said, a man will go to his grave and he'll be resurrected. And in that time, he will have one wish, and he will wish that he could just go back. He will plead to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I wish I could go back. To do what? To offer just 2 rak'ahs. Two units of prayer. Because that will be enough for him to enter Jannah, but now he can't. Right? Actions that are small but consistent. If we have the time and we have the physical capacity, pray those 2 sunnah. And as you're about to pray, be intentional. Oh Allah, may these 2 rak'ahs that I'm about to pray be the difference between me entering Jannah and being protected from Jahannam. Be intentional with your worship. 2 units. That dollar that you could have given, give it. You're not going to become poor by giving $1 in charity every day or every week. That smile that you could have given your mom, that phone call that you could have offered, you have the time. We have the time now. Now. There's no resolutions that are necessary. Now. Right now, today, we're living, breathing human beings. And that's what separates us from the beast. This concept of hidayah, this is the guidance from Allah. This is the guidance that's been descended down to the Prophet ﷺ of being kind to our parents, of being helpful to those that are in need. And lastly, the Prophet ﷺ said that on the day of judgment, your khuluq will be judged. Your character will be judged. My dear brothers and sisters, when we have nasty manners, it is a reflection that on the inside, we are devoid of faith. There is absolutely no way that we can be a filthy human being inside, a corrupt human being inside, but try to create a facade on the outside of religiosity. Right? The scholars comment to say, on your way to being a better Muslim, don't become a terrible human being. Because Islam came to beautify that which already exists. Right? The Prophet ﷺ used to tell the companions when they would convert to Islam, right? And that's a hadith that those that were good before Islam will be good after Islam. Because Islam magnifies the beauty which exists. It purifies the filth which exists. So if we are on this path of spirituality, of becoming good and righteous, but the people around us are repulsed by our presence, because we have become terrible in character, terrible in manners, we become rude and mean and closed off and judgmental, we're not on the path of spirituality. Right? We're on some other twisted, shaitanic path that is actually taking us away from Allah. So that's why our manners are what's being judged on the Day of Judgment. That's why the Prophet ﷺ commented about a woman who fasted, who prayed, who did all of her rituals, but she was abusive to her neighbors with her tongue. Right? She was abusive to her neighbors. So he said about her, "La khayra fiha hiya fin nar." There is no good inside her. She is in the fire of hell. Imagine having done all of these actions your whole life, but you were a terrible human being. And on the day of judgment, when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we're expecting this magnanimous reward, but we find out our abode is actually this, because we're bankrupt, due to what our tongue did to people. That's why the Prophet ﷺ taught us this dua, that when we look in the mirror, we don't say, wow, I have really nice clothes on. We actually ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we say, Allahumma kama ahsantu khalqi, ahsan khuluqi. Oh Allah, the way you have beautified my body, the way you have given me health, and the way that these clothes look so nice on me, and people will praise me for it, correct and rectify my inside. Make that which is more important to you beautiful, and naturally people will find us beautiful. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst those who seek real change and are guided by His guidance. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا برحمتك الشر ما قضيت فإنك سبحانك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون أقيموا الصلاة